we want to hear the stories. But we don't want the stuff. Like, don't overwhelm us with all of your old, smelly, broken things.
After the adult children have taken everything they want and you've taken what you want to move to senior living, guess the amount.
What? A whole life of stuff.
Life.
What do you think is going to happen with all this stuff? Like, my generation doesn't want it. Where is this stuff going to go? Like, what's going to happen with it?
Welcome to the Minimal Mom Podcast. Dawn reaches 1 million women each month with practical tips to simplify your home. Today, Dawn is joined by Matt Paxton, one of the top downsizing and decluttering experts in the country. He is the host of the 2-time Emmy-nominated TV series Legacy List, and was a featured cleaner on the hit television show Hoarders for 15 seasons. Matt is also the author of the best-selling book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. He appears regularly as a public speaker, television host, and radio personality, helping families and companies find the upside of downsizing.
Well, Matt, I mean, you're obviously well known from the show Hoarders. Maybe you're tired of that affiliation by now, maybe not. Your new show, Legacy List, though, is super cool. So we're going to talk about, you're going to help us through sentimental stuff today. But first, how does a 30-something-year-old man get on the Hoarders show? Like, how did that all come about?
So you're going to laugh, right? I cleaned houses for, I cleaned hoarded houses. Like, that's it. By myself, $15 an hour. That's what I did for 5 years. Wow. And I met Peter Walsh very oddly. Yeah. Right? Like very odd. It's a crazy story, but I met Peter Walsh, like this is 15 years ago, and because he was the only other guy I saw doing what I was doing on TV. And I said, hey man, I bet you get a lot of jobs. I bet you can't do them. If you don't want to do the jobs, I'd love your jobs. Okay. That was what I reached out to him. And I called him for a year and he never called me back. And his agent finally said like, oh, okay, yeah, listen to this kid. Long story short, we ended up not working together. And like 3 years later, he gets a call to do Hoarders. He's like, I'm absolutely not doing that show. But he goes, there's this kid in Virginia, they'll do anything.
Nice.
And so it was from a cordial no.
Yeah.
3 years prior. I ended up, Peter recommended me and I met the guys that were doing Hoarders and they were like, we're good, man. We don't need anybody on the show, but if you have any houses to clean, let me know.
Okay.
And I was like, I got 7. I'm doing 7 right now. Come to Richmond. So they flew, because that's all I did. I just cleaned hoarded houses. Yeah. And then I'm on TV and but I filmed it and it was still 6 months. So I was still this broke cleaning guy. And this is a true story. Yeah. Hoarders came on and the day that Hoarders was going to air, like I was like, my life's going to change. My phone got turned off because I hadn't paid my cell phone bill in 3 months, like the day of. And I called Verizon and I begged them. I was like, please let my phone ring. Yeah. And they were like, you haven't paid your bill. Can't help you. And I was still just hustling. I was just cleaning houses for trying to make it. And I go, dude, I'm on TV. I go, check the TV guide. Like that's how long ago this was. I was like, do you have a TV guide? And not online, just a TV guide, And I was like, please check it. And he did. And I go, is that Hoarders thing? I go, that's me. I'm going to be on that show. And I go, look, man, my mom, this is my favorite sales thing I've ever done. I go, my mom is going to watch tonight. And my mom has not really had much to be proud of in the last 10 years. And I go, she's going to see me on TV. She's going to call me to say she's proud of me. And it's going to go, doo. This number has been temporarily disconnected. And I go, do you have a mom? And he got really quiet. And he goes, I hear you, dude. He goes, I hear you. He goes, I'll turn your phone on, but you can't call out. He goes, your phone can only ring in. And my phone has not stopped ringing since, man. Yeah. And I'm like, it's like one of my favorite stories. I wish it was exaggerated. It's totally true.
So even just hearing you say, I'm working on 7 houses, there were 7 houses in the area even. How many houses are actually out there that we don't realize that are?
So it's 5% of the country that struggle with hoarding and at different levels. And obviously we're on a minimalist podcast. Yeah. And I think all of us have journeys, right? Like, I mean, I really just got turned on by minimalism about 4 years ago. And I thought it was kind of weird, to be honest. And now I live in a minimalist home and I love it. My dad was a hoarder. I would spend the weekends with my dad. That's how I got into cleaning houses. Yeah. My dad passed away. So I lost my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers all in the same year. Wow. When I was 24. And I'm now 49. But there's 5% of the country. So do the math. So if you got 100 houses in your neighborhood, mathematically there's 5.
So with these houses you were doing, were you being called in by family members or were the people still in the homes or who was inviting you?
county.
Oh, okay.
The county would call me in. They'd be like, we're kicking this guy out. Can you work with him? Senior move managers would bring me in. Senior living communities would say, hey, our traditional mover can't deal with this. My grandfather always told me, do the work that nobody else wants to do, and you'll have a job.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
And so I just focused on the jobs nobody wanted.
Yeah.
And I later found out that people I just wasn't charging enough the first 5 years.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you don't know that stuff. And I was just trying to help people.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I help, I grew up in a family of faith, and I was just like, if you help people, it works out. God will provide, but God doesn't understand cash flow and things like that. So it's not always,
your phone is
he provides, but he provides, but maybe not at the level you would like, And so I had to learn my way up, and I just always focused on helping people, and it did work out actually, but man, it was a journey. And I just would, I think I'm pretty open about it. I was a recovering gambling addict, and I talk about it all the time. And so I could connect with the hoarders. And so I knew pretty quickly, hoarding happens because traumas happen to them, something bad has happened to them. And so it's not a choice. Nobody will live that way. And so for the really first 15 years of my career, it was just hoarders. And I was I was finding out wait a minute, these are fascinating people. They're brilliant. They're smart. But someone died, or something bad happened to them. And I was like, oh, I can connect with that. Something bad happened to me. I had a bit of a hiccup for 5 years. And I found that I was like, oh my God, the hoarder and I are the exact same thing. It's just my mess up wasn't as big as theirs. Right.
Yeah.
And so
there's a little more
I
obvious,
just dabbled in. Yeah. Mine is a little more obvious. I was a gambling addict. I lost everything. But then why did I gamble? That's why are you hoarding? Right. And it was pretty simple. It was death, divorce, abuse, mainly abuse. But it was really, I learned so much those first 5 years. So I always jokingly say thank God I wasn't on TV the first 5 years, because I really got to understand hoarding.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And why we do it. Cause it was just pure. Yeah. It was just me and an old lady sitting in her kitchen with a bunch of cats. Right. And then that's how we learned. That's how I learned to help these people. And I just love, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I have a really weird life, but I have a awesome, amazing life. I get to help people every day.
So then you get the question all of the time, hey, I know someone in my life who I suspect is hoarding, different various levels. And I know I've visited with Melanie from A Hoarder's Heart, her YouTube channel, and she struggled with hoarding disorder. And when I've asked her, I said, number one thing, if we want to approach a loved one about this, what do you need to do? She's like, treat them like a person. They're not their clutter, their mess. They are a person. Show that you give a crap about them as a person.
Amen. They're probably a better person than you and I. I'll be honest. They're definitely more interesting. Yes. Hoarders are fascinating people, man. I'll never forget one of my first hoarders. I was it was all these, she had books everywhere, which is very common. But they were all these different Russian, Slavic translations. And then she had it was every book in 20 languages. And I'm what's your deal? I don't know, I was getting annoyed. I'm why do you have all these books in different languages? You can't even, I was thinking God, what an idiot. You just buy books in different, you don't even know what they are. And she's like, well, I was a translator at the UN in the 70s. And she goes, so I had to read all these people's books in different languages so that I could translate their language by hand, at live speed at the UN. And I'm I'm sorry, I apologize. I feel really dumb now, and I struggle with one language, right? And this lady's mastering 10 on the fly. Yeah. And I remember it was just so many of those interactions were God, these people aren't sad. They're brilliant. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And then we also get to see on the TV show, if you know me from the TV show Hoarders, the challenge with that is it's a television show about a mental disorder for entertainment. Right. There's an ethical dilemma from the start. Right. And so for us, we do provide a year of therapy for each hoarder. If we didn't provide the therapy, I would say it's unethical to do the show, quite honestly. We provide the help with one of the best, usually the best cleaning staff around, and then they get professional help. And so if we stop doing the therapy, I don't think it's right. And they did stop doing it. That's why I'm not on the show anymore. They didn't offer the back therapy. And then because of the show, it's the wrong way to clean, right? Jam it all in 5 days. Horrible way to clean the hoarders. Yeah. Take all your problems of 50 years and let's try to solve them in 48 hours. That's not going to work. But in the private side of hoarding, I'll be well, I work through for a day a week for 2 years. Right. And you get to know these people, and then you get to share ups and downs. And
Yeah.
I mean, I have one hoarder that always still, every time I have a kid, she'd call me. She's like, have you named a kid yet? I'm like, yeah, he's 6 months old, dude. But they would have I've got an idea. I got a name. How about Tyrone? Like, well, his name's Cooper, but thank you. So I would echo what Melanie said, treat them like regular people. But I would also say, don't talk about the hoard if you can see the hoard. That's my best piece of advice. It's kind of like being married, right? Like, don't talk about whatever you guys are upset about. Don't talk about it if you can see it. Go for a walk, get out of the house, find a way. It's because if you can see the hoard, there's no way you're impartial. It's affected your life. You're very upset. Yeah. And it's hard to be compassionate. So I say get out of the house. Like, that's where to talk about it. And then keep it, you have to remind them, I love you.
Yeah.
This is why we're discussing it. I care about you.
Yeah.
And it's easy when you're not the hoarder's partner. When you're a partner, it's really difficult. It's very difficult because your life is affected greatly.
What do you think is the most misunderstood about hoarding?
And it's a choice. It's not a choice. Nobody. And that it's forever. It's current. It's currently. I had a hoarder one time. I was giving a speech on stage, and this hoarder gets up, this old lady gets up there, and she goes, "You're calling me a hoarder." She goes, "That is the least interesting thing about me." And this crowd is like 300 people in the audience. And she goes, "My favorite food is pizza. My favorite color is purple. I was a secretary, blah, blah." I mean, she just lays it out on me. And it was like a movie. The place went nuts. Like, yeah, screw Matt, he sucks, And then she's like, "Don't call me a hoarder. I'm someone who currently struggles with hoarding." Which is a big difference. She goes, "Don't identify with me. You don't call everyone else like." She's like, "You probably got a family member's an alcoholic. You don't call them alcoholic." And I was like, holy crap, she's right. That's what we do. And of course, then I'm on a show called Hoarders, which is pretty problematic, And I was just like, guys, "Ma'am, you are totally right. I apologize." She goes, "Well, if you're not saying it right, how do you expect the rest of the world to say it right?" And so I will say that she taught me that day, like, hey man, it's totally temporary. Like, it does. And the stat I love to give is I've been invited to 8 weddings post hoarder cleanout. So after they cleaned out their house and their life has gotten better, I've met them when they got a boyfriend, and I've been invited to the weddings, and it's like really cool to see the after of it. And the hard question is, what do you give a hoarder for a wedding gift? Really challenging. And the answer is nothing, by the way, absolutely nothing.
An experience gift, yes.
Experience, which brings us to minimalism, right?
Right. Well, that's fascinating, and anything that's extreme, I think, is always interesting to people, right? And that's why there's TV shows and all of that. But so I love your experiences. Let's talk about your new show, because it's actually equally as fascinating, I think. Tell us a little bit about the Legacy List.
Thank you. So Legacy List, it's on public television on PBS. None of you have probably heard it or seen it. If you please watch it. It's a wonderful show.
Yeah, 2-time Emmy nominated.
Emmy nominated. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy. Been nominated for 2 Emmys. I was up against Marie Kondo and
tough competition.
and it was Marie Kondo, Joanna Gaines, Oprah, and me. And so I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, look who we're up against." And she's like, "Well, I don't think I would buy the tickets to LA. Like, it doesn't sound like you're going to win." And I was like, "Doesn't sound like it to me either, Mom, but my God, we got nominated."
Yeah.
We did not win.
That's okay.
But here's the shtick on this show. The show's really simple. I did Hoarders for so long, and I was like, gosh, Hoarders could be like the most positive show in the country if you edited it the right way. And so I made a commitment. I said, I want to make a positive show about aging Americans. And I was like, nobody under 65. I want real people that have been in the house 30 to 50 years. And I want to hear the stories behind the stuff. Because the punchline for me of my 20-year career is no one keeps the stuff because of the stuff. We keep it because of the memories, because of the people that gave us the stuff, the people that remind us of the stuff. And so I was like, well, that's all I want to talk about. I just want to talk about the people. And so basically, if you've ever visited on your front porch with your grandma, like, that's what this show is. We're just hanging out in people's attics. We're helping them downsize. They're moving. They've been in a house 50 years and they're going somewhere. And we get the stories. And the kicker, when as the producer of the show, I said, hey, I don't ever want to mention a price. Price does not matter to me.
Yeah, you didn't want to go like the Pawn Stars or the Pickers route with it.
And that's all they wanted.
Are people just they're probably on their phone, like, searching it.
No, every day they want to know, right? And I said, guys, this is what's going to make this show different. If we talk about the price, we're just another show. Yeah. And so every producer, and most cable, that's why I'm on public television, honestly.
Yeah.
All the cable shows turned it down. Every network said,
not enough drama.
You don't talk about price, we're not interested. Well, one of them, this is the horrible. One of them asked if there were any attractive granddaughters that would fight over the stuff. And I was like, I'm sure there is. And I wish I was making that up. That's literally what they said. And I go, I'm sure there is, but that's not the show I want to make. And so I made a commitment, and that was the beauty of public television. I said, I'm going to go share grandma's stories. And we were able to get a truly emotional, amazing, positive show. And that's what the show's about. And a legacy list is just a tool I use. The name of the show is Legacy List. And that's just a tool I use when I'm cleaning houses. I go into a house and I say, hey, write down a list of the top 5 things in your house, like the top 5 items that matter most, and tell me those stories. And that's how I'd always start a clean out. And what I found out is when I'm cleaning someone's house, this is like personal, not just on TV, you find that if they tell the stories, it's usually like 3 or 4 or 5 people, right? And that's like the foundation of their family. And so they start to tell their stories. They start to tell the stories about the people that matter. And so they've said, like, for me, it's my dad. I mean, my dad was my rock, right? And my dad's been gone 25 years, but like I still talk about my dad every day. One of my legacy list items is my dad's ring, right? And I tell the story all the time. My kids can tell the story. My kids never met my dad, right? But they can tell all the stories with my dad, and they get annoyed now when I start to tell a story about my dad. And I'll argue that that means we're doing it right. If my kids can finish the story and they get annoyed by the story, that means they know who my dad is, right? Yeah. And they know, and to me, that's what it's about. When you're cleaning out a house, when you're downsizing, it's about sharing those stories. And so I really just fight hard to get those stories told. And the show is just one of my many tools to do that. And I will tell you, to me, it's all about the stories.
So you also have a book out within the last year, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. And so that's why I really wanted to talk about sentimental stuff. Oh, there you go. I'm sure you've heard this too when friends say, I'm so sentimental, I can't get rid of anything. Where do you start? Because these are things, it's not like just decluttering your clothes and then you just go to the store and buy more clothes. I mean, these truly are irreplaceable things that we're talking about. So when someone says to you, I'm so sentimental, what do you say to them?
Well, and I say, that's awesome. Tell me about that person, right? And so I start, and again, that's why I started the legacy list, because they're sentimental about that person. They're not sentimental about that item. And let's get really clear on that. There's someone that's really important in their life. Awesome. Let's embrace that. In fact, let's spend 5 days on it, right? My method, I'm going to tell you right now, my method is not quick. If you can't tell, I talk a lot. I tell a lot of stories, and that's what my cleaning methods are about. I want you to celebrate the person that's not with you. I want to hear every reason you can't let go of grandma's buttons. All right. I want to know why you can't let go of that Foster's coffee can in the garage that is filled with pennies or nails. Because it's your great grandfather's. I find one in every house. I know exactly what they are. But what happens is we attach, because we love someone so much, we had so much positive interaction with that person. We love them so much. I'm so sentimental. This is grandma's first trash can. This is grandma's recycled newspapers. Oh, she's so important that we need to keep her recycled newspapers. Man, this woman was incredible. Tell me all about it, right? And so what I really believe, my belief is that, yes, we're sentimental. We're sentimental about the person. We're not sentimental about the stuff. So I want to spend the time at the beginning telling all the amazing stories. And so that's what I do. I mean, that's why I say, give me the legacy list. Give me your grandma's first 5 items. If someone's super emotional, I'm like, I'll break it up. Give me grandma's legacy list. Now give me grandpa's. Now give me your uncle's, right? And I listen. And you would think by hearing me talk as much as I do that I don't listen. I'm actually a magnificent listener. But I'm telling you, the more you let them talk and the more you listen, the more they share about that person. And the memories come out. You're going to get tears. You're going to get hugs. You're going to get laughter. You're going to get incredible stories. And I want you to record it, right? I got a bunch of different ways to record these memories.
Yeah.
But as you do that, what's happening is you're prioritizing the memories of that person, right? And all of a sudden, it's not that you have 100 items that you matter about this person. You have 100 stories, right? And so all of a sudden you start to realize, oh, I only have like 10 items. And then you start to let go of the items that don't. It's the other stuff that doesn't matter. It's grandpa's, like, do you really need to save all of grandpa's pants? Right? Wouldn't one pair do? And I've really pushed with the sentimentalist. I get it. So I embrace it. I think most cleaning methods try to avoid it. Right? And they get into tips and lists and I don't do all that, man. Okay. I'm not into tips. Tips and lists are actually just more things for my brain. This is where I've embraced, some of the things I've learned in minimalism. It's not about more, it's about less. Yeah. So I've really got it. I'm telling all my professors, I'm like, stop sending out tips. It actually just clutters up our brain even more, right? Like, just tell the damn stories, like let the stuff out of the brain. Right. And so for me, it's really prioritizing. I will say when I clean out a house, and remember, I'm not doing, I tend to clean houses that you're leaving, not houses that you're staying in. So my methods are more about, 90% of my clean outs are downsizing grandma's house or estate.
Okay.
And the only difference is grandma's not in one of them, right? She passed away.
But which is harder? Is it harder after they've passed away and the person, now everyone feels this guilt to like keep everything? Or is it easier when they're still involved and they can have input, but they don't want to get rid of the stuff?
I think it's harder when everybody's alive I think it's easier when the estate is there, the adult children tend to behave better. When grandma's gone, the estate children tend to behave a little more honest. Mm-hmm. When you have grandma moving to senior living, there's a lot of BS negotiations going on with family members. And there's a lot of maybe not truly real and authentic happenings along with family. And you have people jockeying for money or items or love. And there's all these emotions and the guilt. Let's talk about guilt. Yeah. I mean, there's so much guilt at the end of someone's life. People start to do inventory of what they've done for that person. And it comes out in the stuff, right? And people, I've had families fight over pianos that no one's played in 30 years. Or like grandfather clocks that everybody hates.
Oh, so you do get some fighting on your shows, huh? And so,
so I am on Legacy List. I am all about positivity. I'm like, no, none of this stuff. Anytime I see a family member, fight, I'm like, you want the piano? Great. I'll deliver it today. Where's it going? Right? Like, I'll go right at it. I'm like, wonderful. I got a truck. Guys, put the piano on the truck. It's going to Jane's house. And I'll put like, Jane, where's it going to go? Well, maybe I don't want to, And so we can be bullies in that manner, but I will tell you, it's never about this. It's never, ever stuff. It's always about emotions.
Let's talk about guilt though, because I do think some people keep stuff out of guilt because they were told that this was your great grandmother's, this was brought over from Germany. You should keep this, even though they have no idea who that person was. I mean, the only memories they have attached is somebody telling them that thing was special. You need to keep it forever.
So 55 and older has that guilt.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's an obligation. That makes sense. It's an obligation.
Yeah.
55 and under, not so much.
Okay.
They're okay with it. 55 and older, and again, it's primarily women that are tasked with this. If we look back historically, this is not meant to be a sexist comment for any of the listeners. This is just mathematically 50 years ago. Most of the women were homemakers, and so they were tasked with being in charge of weddings, funerals, and cleaning up the houses. Well, now it's oldest adult daughter is who that falls on. Just so my business is probably 85% oldest adult daughter. That's who it's called.
Okay. Yep.
And they tend to stay in town. The youngest daughter leaves. It's usually the oldest daughter, and they feel an obligation to do it themselves because they were usually the highest performing academically family member. They were taught to be perfect. Okay. They stayed. But what's changed is now that oldest daughter is a doctor. She's a lawyer. She's a CEO. She's in charge of all of this stuff and then still gets tasked with managing all of the family member stuff. And then if you look at the mathematical side of this, the stats part of this, which I think is amazing, we're now cleaning out the houses of the people that had kids when they were 20. Right? I was 37 when I had my last kid. Right. Yeah. My mom was 20. My mom was 23. Right. And so what's happening is we have 3 generations of stuff falling on that 55-year-old oldest adult daughter right now. You'll never have 3 generations of stuff again. Okay. And it's the 3 generations. It's the greatest generations. It's the boomers, and I did a speech the other day. It's people that literally, I'm cleaning out houses from people that fought in the war, World War II. And that went to Woodstock. And that's 2 different people, right? Yeah. 2 very different people. And then now they're adult daughters. So there's 4 generations actually. If you're looking at a 55-year-old feeding a client, I'm cleaning 4 generations for that woman. And so what's happening is we have too much stuff, and it's all the same stuff. And that's why these houses are just filling up so fast. And that's why the emotions are hitting, because you're not just grandma, it's great grandma, and mom, and it's piled on you, and you've still got work, you've got a relationship, you've got kids. It's, when you think of all the emotions on top of it, it becomes a lot. And that's why I think stuff has gotten to be just so much for people. It's just too much. And because it's just like, like, screw it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it really, really changes.
So are you helping them then pick out the truly meaningful and just sort it out from all the rest that really is just clutter around it? Or how do you work through these things?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's prioritize this for real. And so what I do is I go through first. I'm like, okay, obviously give me the absolute trash, right? Like we know this is trash. So we go through trash. And then we go to absolute keep. Like we know 100%. Actually, I usually start with that. So usually so we start with absolute keep. So like if this is getting shipped to a grandson in Colorado, great, let's get it there, right? If I have a will, sometimes literally sometimes I get a will this high. And it's like, okay, figure it out. And which I love. That's easy because there's no emotion there. It's just follow the wall. So, but I'll get all the absolutes to where they need to go.
Okay.
Right? And then I say, okay, hey guys, from my experience, it's easier to donate. And so I try to focus more on donation than sell. If you got to sell, it is what it is, and we sell it. So my piles are absolute keep, donate, trash, and put recycling in there. And then I have a big maybe pile. Okay. I'm okay with maybe. Sometimes it's hard to do maybe. You're not sure until you know what you've gone through the whole house.
I could see that.
And so my deal is the maybe pile has to be done last because now once we have a full inventory of the house, you know, something that you thought you were going to keep earlier, now you're like, oh God, I have 12 of those. Like I'm good. Right. And then you say, well, I'll donate 11. And so, but all along the way, we're prioritizing what's most important. And then they start to tell the stories and they start to prioritize. Wait a minute, you know, maybe I wanted this. Like the dining room is the room that catches us all up, right? I mean, the original title of my book was going to be called Nobody Wants Your Stuff. And AARP wouldn't let me call it that. and what I've learned is people do want your stuff, just not that stuff. They don't want the kitchen,
or that volume of stuff, right? Like give me a curated collection of my grandma's things or things I remember my grandma using. I've often thought about, because I have two things from my grandma that I adored. I have her red tablecloth that I remember being on the table every Christmas when we went to her house. And then I have this set of bowls that my mom gave me saying, these were your grandma's, but I don't ever remember them. I don't remember going to her house and seeing them. And so that's where I'm like, there's like firsthand and secondhand sentimental. Like firsthand was the red tablecloth. I remember the Christmases. Secondhand is like these bowls that someone's telling me like, I mean, you could have told me they were anybody's bowls. I would not have known. Right. And so it's like being willing to let go of those things that I don't remember.
So this is perfect. So let's use this. All right. So great timing. I love this. Okay. So to me, the red tablecloth, absolute automatic keep. No brainer. We call that an artifact. All right. You're keeping that. It is in your family forever. We're going to tell that story. And hopefully, God willing, people fight over that red tablecloth after you're gone. Yeah. Because you're going to be grandma in that scenario. Yeah. They're like, this is grandma's. It was everything. And so to make it that kind of, you got to tell the stories and then we got to use it every year. Yeah. Right? Okay. Let's keep it going. Right. Mm-hmm. So to me, that is a no brainer. That is our big item. The bowls, I'd get rid of them. Now, this is what I would do. I would tell that story you just told me, but I tell it to the family. Anybody remember these bowls? If everybody's like, nope, then those bowls are getting donated to a family that needs them. Right. And then they, oh my God, some woman gave us this amazing bowl set. And we've always wanted nice bowls. They were their grandma. She doesn't remember. Right. And it goes to a family that could really use it. Yeah. But what we did was we told the stories and gave it a second for the family, if anyone in the family to speak up. Because you might have a cousin that's like, holy crap, I loved those bowls. I learned how to make cookies before you were born. Yes. I would go to your grandma's house every year. And that was where we made our cookies. I would love those. Yeah. Right. And they're like, oh yeah, great. They're yours. Go for it. But if you don't tell the stories, nobody knows. Yeah. And so how do we have a forum to tell all these stories?
Right. Good question. Yes. What's the answer?
I'm not going to take the podcast from you here, but look, how do you know, like, because you can't have everybody at your house. That's not realistic. I'm really big when I'm downsizing. I'm really big on like once a week or once a month. If we're cleaning out grandma's house, we have a I'm not sure pile. And what we do is we actually will do a Zoom with everybody. Mm-hmm. And we'll say, hey, guy, and we do a show and tell. We'll say, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And someone will say, oh, I remember that. Or, I remember that. And if grandma's alive, even better. Grandma tells the stories, right? Keep it to about an hour, pick like 5 to 10 items. Sure. So it's 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes per story. And what happens is people start raising their hand. I want that. I want that. I want that. I remember when grandma did that. And then what you end up happening is, by the way, you hit record, Zoom, everybody can do this. You hit record, and now you have a time capsule of grandma sharing the stories, and they can look back. I mean, one of my only regrets in life is my kids don't know my dad's voice.
Yeah.
I didn't record any part of my dad's voice, and I hate that. And the other day, my kids like, "What does your dad sound like?" I'm like, "Well, it was kind of whiny, it was kind of pitchy, but he was really confident. I can't really explain it, right? But I wish I had him like telling stories of his cowboy boots and all those things.
Yeah.
But when you do it this way, when you share those, when you're downsizing, you share that.
Yeah.
You do that Zoom, and then the whole family gets to participate. And now you have a time capsule of everyone in the family, not just grandma.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look, Uncle John used to have hair. Like, oh my God. Like, look how skinny you were, Dad. Right? Yeah. Like, it's such a cool little time capsule. Yeah. And it took an hour in life. And now you get to know people get to keep the things they want. But you have to, it's on us, right, to do the work. We've got to set up the Zoom. We got to bring out the items. We got to tell stories. If you create that space, people will participate.
Well, and I love that because I know, my mom has sometimes said to me, she's like, well, you don't have a sentimental bone in your body. So, and I'm like, no, that's actually not true. I mean, one of my favorite memories is going to my grandparents' house and they had a projector set up and they did a slideshow and went through old family photos. I'm like, I loved hearing the stories. Like, and I think my generation younger, we want to hear the stories but we don't want the stuff. Like, don't overwhelm us with all of your old, smelly, broken things, but we do love ways to find, whether it's StoryWorth or different ways to, I love the idea of recording it. Like, I want to hear the stories. I just don't want all the junk,
Yeah. So I'm big on, there's an app called Artifacts. I use that all the time. ARTIFCTS. I know I like it so much that I ended up investing in it. Like, that's how much I like it. So let me be upfront about that. But I use it constantly. It's a cell phone app, and you can literally like take a picture of the item, and then you write the story in there. But here's the best part. You can just hit record or video, and it records videos. And so what I do when I'm cleaning the house, I literally just take a picture of that and I say, okay, Grandma, tell me your story.
Yeah.
Right. And she tells the story. And so then there's pictures of the item, but then it's Grandma's voice attached to that item. And so I found a lot of my clients can let go of the items once they share them, because we found the younger generations, and I'm saying under 25, they get a bad rap usually, but like, they're dead on, man. They're not swayed by stuff. They're going to have really good savings accounts. They don't buy the junk. I'm almost 50. Like, I bought so much crap for my kids. The first 10 years of my life, I was buying my kids everything to make up for all the time I wasn't around, and because my mom was never around. Right. Yeah. And so I bought all this just crap that was useless. And, I married a minimalist. And so when I moved in with a minimalist, like, I got rid of everything, but like, I had a total wasteful of like 10 years of just crap. And what I found is that the next generations, they don't fall for that. They actually behave most like our grandparents, like the greatest generation. They like stuff. They like nice stuff, and they like bigger. They like the stories, but they don't feel the need to purchase a lot of stuff. They like nicer things,
and they value time together. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're having less kids.
Yeah.
As a guy with 7 kids, like, you were the good call, right? I mean, like, I get it. I mean, like, oh my God, but I think they're doing life right. I really do. Like, they don't get bogged down with stuff. And you're going to see that 10, 20 years down the road, they're going to have the savings accounts that our generations didn't have. They're going to be prepared for life. They're going to be able to afford houses again. That's going to correct the house. I mean, like, you think about the economics of it all. Stuff actually drives a lot of the economics of the US, at least, if not the world. And most of it's not needed. Like, I will tell you, this is the number that blows people away. When I clean out a house, after the adult children have taken everything they want, and you've taken what you want to move to senior living, guess the amount.
95%.
Yeah. So seniors will take about 10% with them.
Okay.
Kids will take about 2%.
Yeah.
And then the cash value of everything else left in the house, the cash value, $8,000.
What?
That's it.
$8,000, a whole life of stuff.
Whole life.
$8,000.
Man. Wow. $8,000. And the memories are priceless, y'all.
Yeah.
I know I'm sounding silly here, but like, that's what this is about. This stuff is not worth it.
Yeah. I've wondered, because I do, when I'm helping people declutter stuff, and there's sometimes it may be an unrealistic value on what an antique or some kind of heirloom is worth. What do you think is going to happen with all this stuff? Like, my generation doesn't want it.
I'm in it.
I mean, you look at antique stores and all that. Like, where is this stuff going to go? Like, what's going to happen with it?
Yeah. Well, it's getting sold for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's why
you just go to the next house to clean it out again. Right?
Yeah. Dude, I can tell you like what's in your house. I can tell you what's in your garage. I can tell you my favorite one now is like, everybody still has the blue Bed Bath & Beyond 20% off coupons. They have them in their junk drawer. They're like that, the big mailers. And by the way, Bed Bath & Beyond is not that they're expired. Bed Bath & Beyond is expired. It's out of business. It doesn't exist anymore, right? And people still keep I literally have clients that keep the coupons just in case they come back. Like I heard they're coming back. And I'm like, y'all, they're done. And if they do come back, they're gonna we can get rid of the coupons, right? But like that's for a certain aged client that holds on to everything. Like, so I really just, if you can't tell, I use humor a lot. I use I weigh in on sentimental. I love sentimental. I want to hear the stories. I want you to share that stuff. And then we try to find the grandkids and adult children that do want it. But I push hard. Like, I mean, when I started, I used to tell this all the time now, when I started, the hardest item, I hated going into grandma's closet because we'd find fur coats. Right. And I'm 49. I don't know how old you are, but like you get into, I think we're same generation ish.
Yeah. 41.
And yeah. And so death to people that have furs, right? It was a horrible thing, right? And it was so hard to get rid of. And now, let me tell you something, every granddaughter walks in there, I want grandma's fur, right? Like they're cool again, and they're like, I can't believe grandma wore this skirt, and so like, believe it or not, if you want to jumpstart on downsizing, take your granddaughter into grandma's closet, right? And give her an hour to go shopping. But your grandma's got to be there. She's got to tell stories, right? Because you'll find, because think about this, grandma went to Woodstock. I've already said that, but grandma's not this little old dainty lady that we thought, right? Like grandma's awesome now.
Kind of cool, yeah.
And I mean, I tell this story all the time on stories if you've heard it, but we have this tool in downsizing called hot grandma. And you always find a picture of hot grandma, right? Like she was smoking hot. She was like 18, freaking stunning, right? And so you hold on to that picture till grandma's having a bad moment, right? And you hold it in the back of the house. And when grandma's having a hard time, you come back, hey, who's this woman? She is gorgeous. You're like, that's me. You're like, you don't say. Oh my God, you're beautiful. Not are. Go, oh my gosh, this picture is stunning, right? And it's this stupid little dance. She plays it. We play it. We use it in every house, and it works. But what I'm telling you is like when the granddaughters get into that space, they see this incredible things. Yeah. And I will tell you, we've had to really change our communication because I'm telling you that story. Like grandma was a dainty little person when I started 25 years ago. And now grandma's a badass, right? Like, I mean, get out of the way, man. And the stories you're going to hear are incredible. And so I like really, I love the one I'm thinking of. There was one we did, and I've told the story in the speech before. And we found a picture of hot grandma. It's grandma, adult daughter, who's my age, and granddaughter. It's like 25-ish. And then me. We're cleaning the house out. It's late at night. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And the granddaughter goes, who's that? That's not grandpa. And not grandpa. That's the key here, right? And she's like, oh, that's Armando. She goes, that's Armando. Flips the page. I'm like, no. Come back. We want to know about Armando.
Other stories. I want this story now.
We're like, who is Armando? And she's like, oh, Armando. She goes, Armando was my lover. And we're like, what? Like, do tell, And she's like, oh, it's the summer before I met your grandfather. She goes, I love the story. She goes, I was a professor. She goes, I was an art history professor at MIT, and he was a Spanish professor, and we had a torrid love affair. And she goes, it was just wonderful. And she goes, he's very good. He's still good looking. She goes, I looked him up on Facebook, and he's like 90. And she's like, he's so handsome. And we're just like, holy crap. We're hearing this story, and it's just amazing. And the granddaughter goes, you were a professor at MIT? And she goes, yeah, I was the first female professor. She goes, that's an adjunct professor. I was the first female professor at MIT.
Wow. And
she's like, oh my God. So that picture of hot grandma and Armando is how we found out that her grandma was this unbelievable person, the first female professor at MIT. Like, it was incredible, right? And so if that's not a reason to tell stories, right? Yeah. Like, that is so much bigger than a picture of Armando.
Yeah.
Right. And her granddaughter is very successful, like total. But like, that's how those things start. Yeah. And so that's my argument about telling the stories, and you'll find them everywhere. You have fun. And these kids of the next generation, I think they're doing it right. Where is the stuff going to go? Hopefully to immigrants, hopefully to donation places that actually use it. You don't need it. I'll be honest. We don't need it. Preaching to the choir to this audience. We don't need anything. I mean, good Lord. I mean,
well, tell us a little bit about your minimalism journey now. Did you live simply before you met Zoe, or is this all
No, this is all new. So I was
catch
a
us up.
single
Okay,
father.
tell us about your wife,
okay.
how you met, and
All right.
what's her background.
So my wife is Zoe Kim. Any of you listening would know her as Raising Simple. That's her Instagram handle, and she's a minimalist blogger.
Yep. I followed her early on when I first found minimalism. Yep.
Yeah. So she's a single mother of 4. And I was a single father of 3. When I was a single dad, I was weird that I got my kids full time. And so it is what it is. And I was struggling to be a dad. I didn't really know how to be a dad. Hence why I was a single dad all of a sudden. Right? And so I was learning to what do I do? One of my sons has a processing disorder and really struggles with textures. And my kids were 3, 5, and 7 when I got them full time. So I had a 5-year-old that could not get socks on. I was just a curious dad, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So I went online. We were getting in drag out arguments every morning. And I was like, you're choosing not to put these socks on. And then I go to the doctor and he's like, he is specifically not choosing. He can't help it. Right. But I didn't know, and you're like, oh my God, I'm this horrible father. Yep. So I stumbled upon minimalism because, believe it or not, one of the nice things about being on TV is you can get a lot of group thought. Right. And so I just posted, hey, I'm struggling with my son. I don't know what to do. He can't get dressed in the morning. It's ruining his life. And a bunch of people posted all these things, ideas. And about 10 of them said, read this book, Minimalism for Families. And I brought it just to show it, right? This is my wife's book. Yeah. This book changed my life, okay? I read the book. It just said, hey, too many choices, right? Too many choices. Kids need less choices. And I'm like the guy from Hoarders. I should know how to clean out houses, right? And then I look at my son's closet and I'm like, oh my God, he has the biggest closet. Not only do we have all of his clothes, I have all of the hand-me-downs. I have all of the extras. I was the single dad. Every woman in the neighborhood was giving me extra clothes, right? Sure. Yeah. And they were all going into this kid's closet. So not only did he have his clothes, all the other clothes were in there. And the book was really simple. It's too many choices. Can't make choices. That's why he stopped. And so the next day, I got rid of all the clothes. I donated everything. And I was just like, all right, let's try this. And I put 5 outfits. I put 5 pants, 5 shirts, 5 socks, 5 underwear. And that was it. And sure enough, the next morning, my son wakes me up. Dad, look, I'm dressed.
Wow.
And it immediately worked. And I hadn't even put the pieces together about minimalism yet. I thought minimalism was a bunch of weird people that wore black shirts all the time, right? And we do. That's part of the deal.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But that's just because it looks good on camera, right? We didn't know that. I didn't know anything about minimalism. So I wrote this. I was going to go online to write this random woman for writing the book to say thank you and to tell her that it changed my son's life. And it ended up being this not so old lady, Zoe Kim, and she had 4 kids, and we started talking. And we very professional, for a long time. And then she showed up at my TED Talk and surprised me. And we've been together ever since. And we now live in Atlanta. We have 7 kids. And we're raising 7 kids.
In 1,500 square feet, right?
Yeah, it's 2,000. Yeah, we have a 2,000 square foot. Mm-hmm. If you want to see our house, it's amazing. She designed the whole thing.
Yeah.
She was designing it when we met. Okay. And I didn't know that she was designing a space for my kids. She had already decided we were going to be together. She didn't tell me until a year after we were dating that she had developed, made this space for my kids. But I came from a hoarding mentality. I had, obviously I'm a very sentimental person. So my entire attic was everything from all my dad's stuff, all my grandpa's stuff. And I had to get rid of all of it. And it was a really tough journey. And I think the irony of my book is, if you read my book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff, I had fallen in love with Zoe in the middle of writing that book. And I decided to move in the middle of writing that book. So I've written an entire book about moving. And I'll argue I'm one of the better, one of the top downsizing experts. But man, when I got into when I got into my own attic, I froze. And I couldn't do it. And I basically called Zoe, and basically I did. I called her and I said, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm really stuck. And she goes, very simply, me and your family live in Atlanta. If you want to get rid of your crap and come be with us, let me know. She goes, if you don't want to come, let me know too. And
wow, that was a lot on the line.
And she hung up. And I struggled for 2 days. I didn't know what to do. And finally, I remember I was just like, all right, I got to take a leap of faith. I got to decide if life's going to be better without stuff. It's just stuff. And so ironically, I've been giving advice for 20 years. And so 2 things happened that day. One, I had to call my publisher and I said, this book sucks. I got to rewrite it. Right. And so I totally rewrote my book.
Wow.
That week. I sat in my attic for a week and I went, and instead of writing about tips, I was like, I'm going to write about emotions. And so I went through every emotion that I thought about. And I was like, oh, this is what my clients are going through.
Yes.
And so that's why the book's good.
Yeah.
Because it sucked at the beginning. I had to completely rewrite it. AARP and Penguin are my publishers. And they were like, dude, you can do whatever you want, but it's due. It's due January 1st. So like, you let us know, man, like you do whatever you want. So like everything was on the line that day. Right. And so I took that leap and I really say that word intentionally. Mm-hmm. I mean, I took that leap and I got rid of a lot of stuff and man, I never looked back.
Yeah. You don't miss any of it?
About it. No, I talk about it. And I literally, someone the other day, they're like, well, what were you struggling over? Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even tell you. I got 7 kids now. I don't have time to even think about stuff. I mean, now I'm really into, I will say this with 7 kids, obviously finances are part of our life. I mean, anything times 9 is expensive except 0. Right. And so, I find myself having to defend these minimalism principles. And of course it's changed how I look at downsizing as well. But like for me, I don't believe about no stuff. Mm-hmm. I do believe in nicer quality stuff. Right. Yeah. And my space is very valuable. My space and my time and my money. Yeah. And that's it. Like I got X amount of time with my kids. So do I really want to spend it like cleaning crap up?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Do I want to, our house is like beyond, like we don't even have grass in our yard. Our grass is turf, our pool, we have a pool, we have a great space outside. We live in it and we love it, but none of it has to be maintained.
Yeah.
And I love that because like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Like I had a buddy, literally one of my good friends, he's like, I got to mow the lawn this weekend. I'm like, well, how long does that take? It's like 3 hours. I go, you have 3 hours on a Saturday? He's like, yeah. I go, you spend it mowing? Like, yeah. He's like, what do you do? I go, I'm going for a hike with my sons. I'm like, sure as hell I'm not going to spend it mowing a lawn. And I'm getting a little like exaggerated here, but like that's to me the benefit of homes. I have time for life,
Yes.
And for us, food is where we really share. Our family time is at night. We still all eat together every night. That's all awesome. 9 of us. Yeah. And it's really 10 now with my daughter's, with her daughter's boyfriend. So there's 10 of us always around. Yeah. And we don't, it's Thanksgiving every night for us. And so we don't like to cook every night. And so like tonight, Thursday nights, we go out to dinner and as a family. And so I have to have more money for food. And so ironically, minimalism has really helped me in that because I'm able to spend my money on food and travel and not just dumb stuff.
It's amazing how the stuff adds up.
It's the most freeing. It's the most freeing thing I've ever experienced. Yeah, and ironically, awesome. I was in it, doing it for 20 years before, so, but do check her. I'm not really online if you want to see
she's a great follow. We'll link to her stuff.
She's a good follow.
And we'll get her on
I told her today I was going to be on your podcast. She's like, I follow her. I'm like, I know. I saw that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely visit with Zoe. Okay, I have one lingering question though. So you said originally on Hoarders, they didn't want you on the show. They just wanted you to hook them up with houses. How did you actually end up being, the main character like on the show then?
Yeah. Well, so my dad was in advertising. I understand how to sell. And I knew in the 5 minutes they put me on to test me and I was like, oh, I got this. Most of us have talents that we don't embrace. If you know you got it, girl, go get it. And that's what I did. I was raised by really strong women and men. But mainly the women were the strong people in my life. And they taught me really to, grab it when you get it. When I saw that window, it was just like, I'm going to kill it. And I still have that mentality. When I get on a stage now, man, I'm going to kill it because this is my chance. And I love it. And I love being on TV. It's a chance for me to preach. Faith is a large part of my life. I don't talk about it. I've learned on TV, the minute you talk about it, half the people
get canceled.
You get canceled. So I show it, right? I just show people like, you're so great. You're so compassionate. Yeah.
That's cool.
I will tell you as an entrepreneur, I learned about 10 years ago, I really tried to get rich. Like I tried for 10 years and it always failed. Like dramatically, like almost comically failed miserably. Google my Home Shopping Network appearance if you want. I went against my morals and my ethics and I went on Home Shopping Network because I was going to make $1 million and I lost it. I lost it all. I bombed and I lost everything. And I was like, okay, God, I hear you, dude. Like I hear you loud and clear. Just go help people. And so literally I just gave in and I said, I'm going to go help people.
Yeah.
And my life has been better since. And I will tell you, I can provide for my family of 10 or 9 because I've focused on helping people.
Exactly.
And that is what my life is awesome for it. And so I don't even think about it. And I think people see that. And so that's how I got on Hoarders. And I was the only one using humor and fun and positivity. Everybody else wanted drama.
Yeah.
And I just, man, I'm just there to help people. And I have a really good time doing it. And so people laughed at the dumb stuff I would say. And I don't even know. People are like, oh my God, that was awesome. Do you remember when you said this? I'm like, no, I said that? That sounds awesome, but I don't remember saying it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think the best part is now that with 7, we have 6 boys, 10 to 15. So there is like 10 episodes of Hoarders that I haven't even seen. And I don't have time. Like, I mean, I'll be 60 by the time I'm almost 50. I'm not going to have time to watch these shows.
Yeah.
And so I don't really watch them anymore. Yeah. I get to watch Legacy List, which is great because I'm a producer on that too.
Yeah, that's cool.
But now, I mean, it's crazy to me. Like I left episode 2 of Hoarders and I did 113. Wow. But I left the 2nd episode of Hoarders for my first kid to be born.
Wow.
And now that kid is on the cleanup crew for Legacy List.
Wow.
And he travels with me. He travels with me in the summer. And so now my older boys are starting to being on the show with me. And that's so cool. For me, the best thing in the world is in the summer, I go away for like 15 days with my boys, and they get to work on the show with me. And they're still messy when they get home.
Yeah.
I will say this: people want to, and I hope Zoe does get to be on the show. But what we've learned is we teach our rules of what we believe in minimalism and decluttering. We teach what we believe up to 15.
Yeah.
And then from it's kind of like. I don't know. It's like a religious cult. Like we teach them up to 15, and then from 15 to 18, we let them fly. Right? We see where they're at, and so like we don't push them 15 to 18. And
that's really good.
And we just kind of see where they go.
Yep.
And we're even the 18-year-old. We're starting to see her clean up a little bit more.
You're like, I know it's in there. I know it's in there.
It's in there. It's in there. Well, awesome. I just thank you having me on here.
Yeah, it's so fun to visit with you.
My punchline for everybody listening is tell your stories, man. Tell your stories, and the rest will work out.
That's so good.
You'll find that you just don't need as much stuff.
Yeah.
They are aligned. People think, why in the world would a guy from Hoarders be on this podcast? But I promise you, at the end, it's all aligned. It's all the same stuff. Totally. We all love people, and that's what we're remembering.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt, and we'll have to catch up again another time. That was awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Minimal Mom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who might find value in embracing a simplified lifestyle.